Drowning in debt. We're talking about mortgage debt, credit card debt, all different types, student loan debt, car payment debt. It is piling up left and right. Listen to this, 43% of American families spend more money than they make every year. And if you are an African American, those numbers may be way worse. Hello and welcome to a brand new edition of In Contact. We are exploring real challenges impacting the Black community and offering you clear and practical solutions to live a better, more prosperous and satisfying life. I'm your host, Sharon, and it is awfully good to be in contact with you today as we talk about money problems and offer you some real money solutions.
What's going on in our community? So together we can make a change, you and me. Yeah, contact.
Do you know that Black Americans have the spending power of more than $1 trillion? That's right, $1 trillion. Now, let me put that in context for you so you can understand what $1 trillion really looks like. If you had a job that was paying you $40,000 a year, say, it would take you 25 years to earn $1 million. It would take you 25,000 years to earn $1 billion. And it would take you 25 million years to earn $1 trillion. That's how vast it is. And that is the power of the African American spending ability. Unfortunately, only a very tiny fraction of that money goes to Black-owned businesses. Studies show that most people in the Black community do not know enough about accumulating wealth, the kind of wealth that can be passed on to the next generation and stop the cycle of poverty. Many of us were not taught how to use money and credit properly. So how do you fix that? What are some solutions to becoming financially savvy? How do we break the cycle and keep more of our money that we work so hard for? Well, April is Financial Literacy Month, so we are talking about how to save more and spend less and leave a legacy for our children. And who best to talk about leaving a legacy and keeping more of our money than the wealth builder herself, Sonia Booker. She joins us now. And let me just tell you a little bit about Sonia. Sonia is the uber entrepreneur of all entrepreneurs. She is a guru in so many ways. She's a go-to thought leader on wealth creation and real estate investment. Sonia, thank you so much for being a part of In Contact.
Yes, thank you. And it is Financial Literacy Month. It's so exciting to have a month to celebrate and bring awareness to all the information that we need to know, right?
And we have a lot of information to cover.
We have a lot of information, yeah.
So let's start by talking about what you see as the relationship that the African American community has with their finances and with their money. How does it look?
It looks like it's based on the information that we have. It's just a lack of information. I mean, you have so many cases where everything else is the same, but the decisions that are made are vastly different. And that makes all the difference in the world, those decisions. And
that's why we need an education program where people can understand how to break down the numbers.
Yeah.
And you're very good at that because your specialty is to be able to break down complicated strategies and complicated information, and you teach it to the common folk. You tell them how to build their wealth $1, one decision at a time. In fact, that's your logo, right?
That's my slogan.
Right. So what does that mean,
Sonia?
$1, one decision at a time. Is it that easy?
It's that easy. And you know, it kind of gets your attention, like, oh, well, I have $1, okay, you know, so that's the attention getter. But it's about making decisions every single day with every single dollar, and that's what it accounts to. So if I had $1 and I decided to spend it on buying a soda or a bottle of water, then I'm foregoing the future benefit of that dollar that could be better served as paying off debt or saving for my kids' college or retirement. And so it's about making those thoughtful decisions with your money and realizing that every dollar adds up. That dollar is now 5 and 10, and before you know it, it's $100.
Absolutely. And it even multiplies.
And it even multiplies.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that is a mindset that we've got to shift because people think, oh, it's only $1.
It's only $1, right?
Why would I save $1? It's just $1, but those dollars add up.
The dollars add up. I mean, you know, I think of everything in kind of a day. Day by day is what we're doing. And then once you kind of train your mind, it becomes second nature, where you're starting to ask yourself, oh, should I buy these shoes? Should I spend this dollar? It no longer seems like a dollar. And now it seems like a decision that could cost you everything in terms of better serving you in another capacity. And that's what you're really doing.
Now, you did not come by this information by osmosis. You've got a wonderful backstory. I want to tell our audience about your travel, your journey to wealth building.
Yeah. Well, it started growing up. I grew up in Mississippi and spent a lot of times on my grandparents' farm and learned just kind of every day being resourceful when it comes to the land. You know, we grew produce, we went into town and sold, you know, whether it was okra, black-eyed peas, collard greens. So we would do that. Then my grandfather had rental properties. So we were always having activities that were going around that were generating money. And I saw that very early. And by the age of 12, I was like, yeah, I want to be that. Not really having a word for it as an entrepreneur, but I knew as I walked into my life that I wanted to be a person that could kind of affect change and could kind of, you know, impact my destiny and not see ceilings. So that was something I was very conscious about. So as I continued on my journey and, you know, then had a super mentor, the late Herman J. Russell, what I realized very early is that everyone did not have my grandfather. And people were saying, Sonia, how are you buying real estate? How are you starting a business? How are you doing things that almost felt second nature to me? That when people started asking me, I was having these seminars in my living room, just sharing information, you know, with people, wanting to having, you know, just having that desire of, I want people to know this.
Wow. And not everybody's privy to that information or that background and upbringing. Let me just talk a little bit about the debt trap data on African Americans, and I'll just walk right through it, and then we can elaborate a little.
Okay.
Now, African Americans have a higher debt delinquency than any other ethnic group. They have a comparatively lower saving rate, a lower home ownership, which is about 45% of African Americans own their own homes, greater incidence of home foreclosure than other ethnic groups. They're subject to greater incidence of predatory lending practices and greater incidence of higher cost in auto and consumer loans. So when you hear these stark statistics, how do you approach re-educating people and getting them out of debt?
When I hear that, it says information. That is what will really help to fix a lot of things. So when you talk about predatory lending or African Americans having higher foreclosures, when you really dig down into those loans, which I did back in 2009 and 2010 of people that were calling me like, help, I'm losing my home. When I would really go in there and understand what was going on, it was a loan that they didn't understand they had, whether it was a balloon payment or a adjustable rate mortgage, and it was just the information that they did not understand that would have made all the difference in the world of how they could have responded to the problem.
Wow. Such incredibly great information, Sonia. Stick around because we're going to be looking at the solutions to the problems that we've already talked about. And coming up, we'll meet a woman who is building her wealth and teaching her children about how to manage money. Stay with us.
Be informed. We gotta know what's going on in our community. So together we can make a change, you and me.
Imagine struggling as a single mom to make ends meet for you and your two growing boys, living paycheck to paycheck to paycheck. Debt among single parents put quite a strain on a household, and Tamela Jones will quickly tell you that is so true. She joins us now to talk about her debt struggles and how she has managed to become more financially savvy as a single mom. Welcome, Tamela. It's good to have you on In Contact.
Thank you for having me.
You have such an amazing story, but I want to start off with the habits that you were taught growing up. What were some of your money habits that you learned as a child growing up?
As a child, there were none. Mother was hardworking, got up every day as a cook, one of the high rises in downtown Detroit, and money was not a conversation. It wasn't something that we even had access to.
So what were some of the stories that you can reminisce that really probably build into or were baked into the bad habits?
Lack of information, not knowing resources, just keeps a continuous cycle of poverty. I mean, it was very, very meager means. Like I said, she was a cook. So there were no fancy dinners. There were just bare minimum needs being met in the home.
And how did that write your story as you grew up and became an adult and a mother yourself?
Well, I knew that I wanted more for myself. And having the opportunity to go off to college and finish in accounting, that was a pivotal point. And working under the first black CPA for the state of Alabama and seeing her drive and seeing her ambition to succeed, I knew then that if I made sure I was educated and disciplined, that I could create wealth for myself, and that one day, as you know, going into marriage and having children, that I could pass that on, because I knew I wanted to reset the button for my life.
And at some point, however, your life took a turn. A divorce is always a difficult thing because it strips the home of financial input, so to speak. So tell us how bad it got for you as a single mom.
Well, 2009 was pretty traumatic. It was as if someone pulled a grenade and let it go and just threw it on my entire life.
Wow.
Working for over 7 Fortune 500 companies in Atlanta, very lucrative career, had a staff, and found myself laid off, pregnant with my second child, and my husband walking out the door.
Wow.
All in the same year. So I knew then that, wow, life can happen, and I wasn't prepared.
And it shifts the dynamics. There's some very sobering statistics here. 90% of single parent families are headed by females. Single mothers with dependent children have the highest rate of poverty. And it goes on and on. The rate of poverty is even higher in African American single parent families, in which 2 out of every 3 children are poor. So we see it gravely in the African American community. How were you able to shift the dynamic for you and develop a better sense of wealth building?
I had extraordinary women surrounded me in my life. Several women that have just, you have to be ready to be vulnerable and to be taught. And I listened and I did my homework. So I knew that bonuses were coming that needed to be made towards the purchase of a home, because giving my children a home gave them home base. So they never had to figure out where we're going to move next, where we're going to do next. So it was being humble, being teachable, applying the information that's given, and then setting the goal. The loan officer told me, you need $10,000 to close on your home. I'd never had that amount of money in my life.
Wow.
Being educated, degreed, married for 12 years, never that amount. And I set the goal and I closed on my first home.
Wow, congratulations. You took charge and you took action. Absolutely. And you also started the legacy for your own children.
Yes.
How does that make you feel to know that you grew up in a sense, in an environment where the principles of financial savviness were not there, and here you are building something strong for your children, for your 2 boys?
It's beyond a reward when I meet with my clients and the light bulb goes off, and I'm able to share with them those financial principles that I do in my career with small businesses and individuals, and the light goes off and they send me a text message, thank you.
Wow.
And saying that they trust me, and then I get to come home and show my children that check payable to Tamela Joyce Consulting. If
you were to talk to your mother, if you had a conversation, what would you say to her about how far you've come and what you've learned? And we're talking again about building wealth, $1, one decision at a time.
I would say, Mom, thank you for the discipline, because every morning she got up, walked down the street, caught the bus in an all-white cafeteria uniform and cafeteria shoes, and she never complained. I would tell her thank you for that discipline.
And what would you say to yourself 50 years from now when you're looking back over your life and thinking, wow, I have laid the framework to change the trajectory of my life and how I can change the trajectory of my children's life in becoming more wealth savvy and wealth conscious?
Good job. Good job, Tamela, because my children understand, even now my 14-year-old wants a job, and I said, no, you're going to create a business. So his business launches, we already have the tax ID, already have the name.
Wow.
He's already drawn the logo, and it starts this summer. I said, you can go for the management skills, the social skills, but you will earn your own money at the same time.
So we see the generational shift.
Yes.
the first generation, being your mother's generation, struggled.
Yes.
And she passed on certain principles to you in terms of disciplining
Yes.
your life. And now you have another generation, a third generation, really benefits from all the education and the knowledge. Well, I want you to stick around because we're going to be talking a lot more about the solution. We want to talk about the solution because, you know, sometimes we're always talking about the problems, but we've got some tangible solutions. So if you need to be free from the shackles of debt, or if you want to be free from the shackles of debt, you need to plan and you need to have a strategy like Tamela did. So I want you to make sure you get a piece of paper and a pencil handy. We've got a few simple, doable ideas and personal challenges for you to consider when we come back. We're talking money problems and money solutions.
Be informed. We gotta know what's going on in our community. So together we can make a change, you and me.
I wanted to be able to give my son something when he graduates from high school. My goal is to provide for him a college education and also provide him with a property once he enters college. By applying your plan and staying on course, one of my properties will be debt-free within 4 years.
Wow.
My son is now 14, and I'll be able to turn it over to him.
Woo! Yes, wow.
Wow.
That was one of Sonia Booker's wealth builders, Phyllis Douglas, talking about her wealth building habits of building wealth by using real estate. And I know Sonia joins us again, the wealth builder, as well as Tamela Jones, who are both having this conversation about the solutions. Because it's one thing, again, to talk about the problems, but let's talk about some solutions. First, how did it feel when you hear one of your wealth builders just taking action?
It's awesome. I mean, it's like the best feeling in the world. And even hearing Tamela share her story here and just the things that she did. And like she said, just having good role models and mentors and people around her to just help keep her on track. Like,
yes,
just $10,000, Tamela.
You can do it.
Yes.
So that is one strategy that people use to build their wealth, real estate.
It's a foundation. Real estate is really
it simple to do?
Foundation. It's you know, just as simple as anything else that you teach yourself or learn about.
Okay.
But I think when you start looking at African American and wealth, that's where you really start to disparity. I mean, and the top of the show, you talked about the 45% home ownership for African Americans. Well, you didn't mention it's 72% for white Americans. So, I mean, it's like a huge gap.
Absolutely.
So when we set that foundation, not even real estate from investing, but just real estate as this, you know, this foundation that
and having
starts
a piece
to
of the
build
American
this house.
dream.
And that's where a lot of your equity and a lot of your growth for financial wealth starts to come from.
Because you can use a little bit of the equity in that home to start another investment plan somewhere, perhaps.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
And Tamela is considering doing that in terms of investing in real estate.
Yes.
You've been working with Tamela. She's one of your wealth builders.
She's a wealth builder.
And so when are you going to jump in? And is it scary to jump into real estate?
No. With Sonia Booker as my coach, it's not, because her principles are digestible. Once you're vulnerable and you're willing to tell the truth about where you're at and where you want to go, you get her self-wealth building kit.
Wow.
You follow her on Facebook and Twitter. You follow her radio show. All of those nuggets will give you the information that you need.
And I'm glad you said that because when we looked at a study by Prudential, we discovered that so many African Americans, 1 out of 10, I think, really employ a financial professional because they feel they don't have the money to start.
Right.
Is that a misnomer?
It's like an oxymoron. Like, you know, I got to get money to go and learn about managing money, which a lot of the companies that we work with or that I recommend, you know, which even Prudential is an awesome company that say start where you are. You know, if that's $20 into this account, then that's $20 because you're building a habit.
Right.
You're really building a habit. And when that muscle starts to exercise, then, you know, you're off to the races.
Absolutely. And you become more comfortable as you move up the ladder. If I were to hide $5 under the couch or put it into the bank for a year, what will that accumulate to and what could I use that money for? Because people think, oh, it's just
$5, but it's really $1,830.
And imagine what you can do with $1,830.
Oh my gosh.
You can pay off a loan. You can put up down payment on a car. What else can you do?
It's endless. I mean, you can pay down debt. You know, you have people saving up for a house that say they can't save. Well, that's almost $2,000
Yes.
right there, just in that decision. But what happens is it starts out being $5, then it's $20.
Yes.
Then it's, you know, everything starts to change. And then as you're building, you're like, I like watching my money build
Right.
for something bigger. And
Absolutely.
you're away from those little, you know, miniature, minute needs that you think you have. It's a bigger picture. Your life
So,
becomes a bigger picture.
Is that a challenge we want to give our
That's a
listeners and
challenge.
audience?
Let's give the audience.
So
Yeah.
absolutely on our Facebook page, we want you to go and tell us how you can, or if you will join us in the challenge, to save just $5 a day. And how can we do that? By eliminating a lot of things that are just eating up our money, so
Eating
to
up our
speak.
money.
Such as going to get the coffee.
A cup of Joe, a cup of coffee. You know, we do that. We don't even think about it, but we're really, you know, foregoing the best use of that money. And maybe we should make coffee at home.
Very easy. And you talk a lot about how you have been brown bagging it
Oh, yeah.
because you can save money that way.
I saved $4,000 brown bagging. That jump-started my kids' college education. Just from taking my lunch with me daily to cut time. You know, I had less time after having a kid and I wanted to maximize that. So here I am, brown bagging, saving money, and it added up. And at the end of that year, it was $4,000.
Incredible.
Incredible.
And Tamela, you're doing something as well that is wealth building. You started a part-time job on the side. You started your own business.
business.
So
Yes.
tell us about how that can help us generate wealth and change the mindset, Sonia and then Tamela. What that strategy is all about, making sure that you eke out time to do something on the side.
Well, I knew my skill set was very well in my career. And I said, what if I do this for other individuals? And knowing that building that cash flow outside of my salary allowed me to make the risk that I want. And I wanted to add, when you talk about the $5 turning into $10 and $20, it doesn't become a sacrifice anymore when you set the goal. So when I knew that I was closing on the home and I knew that we were doing the walkthrough, it no longer became like I was taking something away from myself. I knew that I was setting myself for a bigger goal.
It was like you were rewarding yourself.
Yes.
And as Sonia says, as you see the increase, you get excited.
Yes.
Stainless steel appliances. I said, yes.
Yes. And you know, there are other things that you can do. You might have a skill or a talent, like you talk
Yeah.
about one of your wealth builders. She had a talent of, was it sewing?
Alterations, doing sewing, a seamstress, and she started doing it on the side for people. And she was, you know, doing church choirs and, you know, curtains and all this, and she turned it into an amazing business.
Yes. So everybody's got something where
Everybody
they can
has
eke out some
something.
funds.
A
I want to
talent.
read you this list really quickly. Step-by-step guide to getting out of debt. List all of your debts, their balances, and interest rates. Set periodic goals. Start paying off balances from highest to lowest. Trade in big ticket items like the, you know, that clunker car that, you know, hey, you're paying a lot of money for it every month and you can probably get a smaller car. Sell almost everything. I'm not sure if I agree with that one. Selling almost everything. But there's another one that says work, work, work. And that's that little part-time job on the side you can get. And then reward yourself. And I'll talk about that a little later on. What do you think about this list? What's the most important one, do you think? Or what caught your eye?
I think the rewarding yourself is very key, and focusing on that reward. I think what Tamela said is so key, that it no longer became a sacrifice because it was a bigger picture. And I think if we focus on the bigger picture sometime and not that like what's in front of us and this whole day to day, that's like, you know, I tell people, are you planning to be here tomorrow? Yeah. What about the next day? Yeah. Okay, well, let's plan for it.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Put
not
aside that $5.
Yeah.
Yes.
What about, you know? And so because you're here and you're going, I'm going to have this lavish retirement. Oh, really? You know,
You got to plan it. You got to be deliberate. We could talk all day, ladies.
All day,
It's such an
yes,
amazing topic. And as we look at Financial Literacy Month, thank you for contributing so many solutions and your personal stories. We really appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you.
Sonia
Thank
Booker,
you.
the Wealth Builder. Yay!
And use the hashtag 5365 for the $5 challenge.
365. So $5 for the rest of the year.
365 days.
Absolutely.
That's
Good
what
deal.
you do.
Tamela, thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you.
We really
Thank you.
appreciate it. Wow. So we've given you a lot of information, and you know, they say knowledge is power. I invite you to consider that, reconsider that, I should say, because to me, it's the application of the knowledge that's power. So the question for you is, what are you going to be applying? What is one thing that we've talked about today on In Contact that you could apply to your life? So here's my challenge. I want you to think about doing something difficult, whether it is saving that $5. For you, it might be very difficult. Perhaps think about saving $1 a day. That accumulates as well. And as Sonia says, it's all about the habit, right? So do something difficult, something different as well, because we're so accustomed to being autopiloted in our lives. And difficulty is something else, but different is also one you want to make sure that you change the course of your life, and also do something delightful. Rejoice and celebrate and treat yourself for those sacrifices you're making. Take yourself out for a Slurpee or a hot dog or something, but make sure you do something difficult, something different, and something delightful. Thank you so much for joining us. I invite you to take the challenge that Sonia has issued, save more, spend less, and build your wealth. $1, one decision at a time. Until next time, make sure you know that we are in contact to keep you in contact with the solutions to all the problems or the challenges that you're facing. Have a great day. See you next time on In Contact. I'm Sharon Frame.
Be informed, you gotta know what's going on in our community. So together we can make a change, you and me. Yeah, be in contact.
Are you ready to push away from the busyness of life, to put a pause in the sometimes tiresome rat race? Is it time for you to get some much needed and much deserved rest and relaxation? Oh, that sounds good. Well, imagine this. Cruising in luxury on the high seas for 6 straight glorious days in paradise. Wow. Well, you know, you can do more than just imagine it. You can live it. Hello, everyone. I'm Sharon Frame. I am the founder and host of the annual Lead Her Ship Empowerment Cruise. And I'm sitting here in my office thinking of ways to make sure that this year's cruise is over the top. One that blows the other cruises we've done out of the water. Why? Well, this is a watershed moment for us. This is our 5th anniversary. And to celebrate this milestone, we are going to Cuba. Yes, we are cruising to Cuba. You know, that land that is still virtually untouched by time. And I am inviting you to come and explore this island, this once forbidden place with all of its mysteries and its intrigue. You know, visiting Cuba might be the bonus for this year's Leadership Cruise, because I am inviting speakers, authors, entrepreneurs, all those who want to have an experience in Cuba while building and developing lifelong friendships and wholesome, wealthy, rich business partnerships. Well, when are we sailing? November 4th through the 10th. And we are sailing on Royal Caribbean's Empress of the Sea. You know, it seems like everybody wants to go to Cuba, so you've got to hurry and secure your cabin. So go ahead and grab your traveling partner and secure your cabin today. You know, I've been doing cruises now for almost 5 years. It's been my privilege to take our travelers on this exciting, fun, leisure and learning journey. I want to make sure that you are part of what we're doing this year as we travel to Cuba. Don't miss this bus.